Hey guys, and welcome back to Thelearningdroid and another one of my project videos. In this one, guys, we're going to be making a set of fridge magnets, and these are the blanks I've created. They are 3-inch wide basswood that have been cut into 1 3/4 inch or 1 1/8 inch deep strips. A woodworking friend of mine who is much better with the power tools has routed out 3 very accurate strips in the back. Reason for this, guys, is I'm going to be using magnetic strip, which I have here, and these strips that have been routed out in the back fit literally down to the millimetre my magnetic strip. So much so that if I put the magnetic strip in, I can actually lift it off. They've been sanded, and now we're going to pattern them.
Okay guys, so someone asked me if I could do some over the narration, so some talking over the top videos, and I'm going to give it a go. So, as you can see guys, I'm patterning the magnet blanks at the moment. Each pattern's a little image and a name, and I'm using the patterning bit on the Weller wood burning hobbyist kit. I found it was getting a bit too hot. As you can see, the paper's burning, so what I did was I unplugged it, and because solid point bits like the Weller kit keep their heat for so long, I've actually unplugged it and I'm using it unplugged, and I'm using the residual heat. And it runs out of heat with this one, and I end up having to plug it back in and then keep going. And as you can see, when I look under this time, there's nothing there, so I have to wait for it to heat up again, and I work on it from there. Once I've done the patterning, guys, I move on to burning, and I use the Peter Childs machine, which is a wire point machine. And actually, guys, I do pretty much all of this burn using the detail shader point that you can see being made on the Making Tips video, or Making Tips Beginner's Guide series. And it's a very thin, flattened out bit, and actually I'm using the edge of it, guys, to do lines. I like doing this because it gives you really accurate, very thin lines, and depending on how you shape your flattened out bit, you can do some interesting little curves and things very easily. So I'm doing little strike lines, and I'm also using the tip and the edge of the detail shader point to give me the lines. I will use the base of it later to shade in eyes and things, but for the most part I use the edge of the detail shader point. I've got a bit of scrap wood that I'm using to check temperatures and things, but for the most part, guys, I'm just winging it. It's been about, with this video, it's been about a month since I actually did any previous pyrography, so I'm getting back into it slightly, so I make a few mistakes. And there goes the detail shader point, and I actually switch over to a spear point, guys. I haven't done a video for the new series for making spear points, but I will. The advantage with that is it's got a much finer tip because it's been chiseled down, and because you've got that V shape with a spear point, it's really good for making letters that have a V indentation. And in this case, I'm just dragging. I keep the point in the centre of the line that I want for the letter, and I just drag it following the line, and it makes really good. And as I've got the spear point in, I actually go through and do all the lines, all the wording, just nice and quickly. And I mean, the A there gets a little bit too thick, and that's because I was dragging it not in line. There you saw me turn it up to full and turn it down again. That's because there was carbon build-up. When you do this sort of thing, guys, where you do long drag lines, quite deep dark lines, you get a lot of carbon build-up on your tip, and it actually affects how it burns. And you want to keep your tips nice and clean. Because this is a wire point machine, I whack it up to full, let it get so hot that it burns all the carbon off, and then I go back on to doing the letters. With the letters and things, guys, it's all being dragged backwards because I want to get nice accurate lines. Whenever you're doing pyrography, guys, you should always drag the point rather than push the point, otherwise you're going to get embedding and you're going to get deep lines. There you see me heating it up again because I was getting carbon build-up on the edge of the detail shader. I've gone back to the detail shader for this, guys, because we're doing little lines again. And there's me using the shading capability of it to do the eyes, little dots for the nose and mouth. And because it's a detail shader point, the little taps I'm doing there actually give me little straight, very thin lines. And there's our water bowl and the tail. And then I'm going to turn it down, guys. As you'll see, turn it down, and that gives me a slightly lighter coloured line for my whiskers. It's really easy, guys. And as you can see, guys, one of the things I'm doing, which is a great tip for people who aren't or new to pyrography, is I'm rotating the piece that I'm working on so that I'm always drawing the lines in the same sort of direction. The worst thing you can try and do, guys, is keep the piece still and try and rotate yourself around it. Even with really big pieces, guys, give yourself enough space to actually rotate the piece, because it makes it far easier. It means you're always dragging, you're never pushing, and it gives you a much easier time. Here's our little fruit bat, and this is actually the most detailed little piece out of all of them. And I go back and do the eyes on the dragon because it was annoying me. The pattern didn't actually have coloured eyes, but I was looking at it every now and then while I was doing this, and the eyes were getting on my nerves. It's quite easy, guys. I mean, this is sped up to, let me check, 8 times its normal speed, so I'm going quite quickly, but this whole thing took me about 50 minutes to do all 4. I'm not happy with this one because the eyes didn't get the way I wanted them to. A little bit of touching up on everything else. This is the thing, guys, when I'm working on multiple little projects, I'll often come back to them over and over again rather than finish one, because I'll get one mostly done and I'll look at it and think that's done, and then I'll realise that I've missed bits. And here I'm using the shading capabilities of the shader point just to do little black bubbles. And that will be the end of our burning. Then straight away, guys, I move on to doing colouring. I'm sorry about the slight striations on the screen, guys. The camera was having a hard time with the lighting. Someone else walked in and turned on another light that the camera didn't quite like. In this case, guys, 2 glass dishes, some watercolour pens, some water in one dish, and the other dish is dry. And that you see me there doing there, guys, is getting rid of some overcolour. So I just use clean water over and over again, and a bit of kitchen towel to get rid of some overcolour where colour's seeped into places I don't want it. A nice dark blue. And then we move on to this. I water down the dark blue a bit more and use it as a background for the jellyfish. I didn't like the jellyfish, so I wanted to do something a bit more than just colour the jellyfish, because there wasn't going to be a lot of colour, there wasn't going to be a lot of detail on it. And again, I wanted to do a bit more than just colour it one colour, so I mixed a couple of colours, and it gives it kind of a slightly uneven colouring in the end. We'll have a picture at the end, guys, to show you what they look like. A little bit of green for the apple, and then brown for our hanging fruit bat. It's actually really fun, guys. I mean, this sort of colouring process, you can use watercolour pencils, you can use watercolour paint, you can use watercolour wood dyes, you can use anything you want. You can draw just straight with a felt tip, and you see, guys, that colour was way too thick, so I actually just put more water on and used kitchen towel to clean up the excess colour. And there we go, guys. These are our finished images. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.